morning, friends. Welcome to Rocky Mountain Gardens. And I'm so happy you can join me this morning for a cup of coffee. I wanted to talk with you all about our homes. And there are very few of us that are fortunate enough to have a big old farmhouse out in the country with a piece of land. Not many of us are able to have that opportunity or be able to afford it. So I would say you might agree that most of us live in suburban homes, and they can often be very, very plain. Just the flat walls, no interesting architecture. And, this is just the way builders make homes these days. And I am here today to share with you how I have gone about making my home into a cottagey farmhouse look. I'm going to give you quite a few tips in this video about how to do that. Now, while I'm talking, I wanted to show you a little bit of some of the trim molding, for example, that came with my house. If you take a look at it, it's very plain and small, little tiny bits of trim molding, maybe just 2 inches or so. Very unremarkable. Let's take a drink of our coffee or tea while we're discussing this. Great in the morning. All right, so let's move on. I'm going to take you around in my house and show you some of the things that I have done myself or that I have hired my handyman to do for me if it was a little bit too difficult. And so we'll be heading around in different areas of my house, and I'm going to be highlighting these different things that I've done that you also can do, either, like I said, yourself, because they are not tricky. Let's start in my kitchen, which was very plain, and I worked with my handyman and I did painting myself to give it a wonderful look. So let's go and get started on this tour of my home. And we're highlighting, like I said, the techniques I use to add architectural interest and make my home more unique than any other house here in my neighborhood. In my kitchen, I took and put an island in to replace that little table that was there. And the island was done very plainly to match those oak cabinets that you saw. Now, what I have done with my handyman is choose some molding to put on the sides of the island, and then on the side of my cabinet over here, both on the lower and the upper cabinets. And as you can see here, I also did quite a bit of molding, crown molding. And the sort of series of steps for this project was to first have my handyman do the molding, and then I painted my cabinets this espresso color. I wanted a dark contrast with this, it's sort of a type of marble, but it's a harder marble than Carrara marble. But I have, that dark contrast with the white marble. And another thing I did here was when I got a new microwave, when mine was breaking, I had my handyman bump out these cabinets a few inches so that they were in line with the new microwave that I had to get. And that was all part of the project of adding the crown molding. And I also used this rope molding with the crown molding to give it even more character. So he bumped out that section of cabinets, and then over my refrigerator, he bumped out this cabinet as well. And that gave that whole bank of cabinets a more unique look. Again, always going for more character. And here is, you can see my backsplash I changed as well. I had a really great guy who was a tiler, and we just bought the tiles at, I think it was Lowe's, and then he installed it for me, and he did such a great job. Here's a look at the trim molding that I put around my back door going out to my porch. And I was able to get a nice cottagey look here with these windows. When I had to replace them, I had these windows with, they're kind of full mullions. Those are these bars going across and up and down that give you the look of individual window panes, but they're quite easy to clean. So I had that type of window added into this to give me that, like I said, a more cottage look in my home. Down this little hallway that goes to my garage, and I have quite a few doors here. You can see I also did these new sorts of trim moldings around my doors, and it really made a difference into giving some character to my home. I'm very happy with that. These are very easy to do also. You can see you do not even have to do any miter cuts if you use these little squares. I forgot what they're called, but I'll put it up here when I put this to a video. But all you do is straight cuts, and it's quite easy to add this fluted molding then. And it looks so pretty. And I repainted my doors with a bright white enamel sort of paint to give it a really lovely look. Very bright and cheerful, and very, again, more character to my home. Now look at these baseboards that I had installed by my handyman. He has been really great and done a lot of projects for me. And that includes these baseboards, which he had in his garage sitting there, and he offered to give them to me because he wanted to get them out of his garage. He offered to give them to me and install them, and all I paid for was the labor, which was quite a deal. I was so fortunate to have that. Then I did this same fluted molding around my front door, and it just gives this part of my house such a unique look. Makes such a difference on my home. So I want to go over here and show you that I have this bay window in my living room space, and I went ahead and put that same fluted molding with the medallions around at the top, at the corners. And you can see I have that larger baseboard. I have this lovely fluted molding to frame, I'll stand back here, to frame out that bay window. And then up here, I also added this crown molding all around this part of my living room. And honestly, I also had popcorn ceilings here, and I had that removed. That was such a 90s thing, and I had that removed first. The ceiling painted, and then my handyman, who's such a great artisan when it comes to working with wood, he did this fabulous crown molding. So what a difference this made. When I first moved in my house, I wanted to add some characters, so I put this chair rail up early on when I was first living here, and I added some wallpaper, and I'm going to show you a little view of what that wallpaper looked like. Well, after about 15 years or so, I was really tired of the wallpaper, and since I was going toward more of a cottage farmhouse look, I decided to go ahead and paint the wallpaper. My handyman, like I said, had already added in this baseboard. And what I did, I actually have an entire video. If you're interested in seeing how I did this, I have an entire video on this process. But here's the finished product. And I'll put a card up in this video so you can click on it and take a look at how to change from wallpaper without removing the wallpaper to get this sort of board and batten look that is very farmhouse. It's a great way to change out things without struggling with removing wallpaper. Here are the two corbels that I'm going to be hanging, and I'm going to insert into this frame the way they looked when I bought them at Hobby Lobby. They were very distressed, and I didn't quite want that much of a distressed look. So I did spray paint them with white satin Rust-Oleum paint. Now there is just a touch of architectural interest here in the alcove in my hearth room. And I think it helps to set off this area here very nicely. I'm liking the way it looks. Here's my front door, and as you can see, I really don't have a foyer. I basically have just a landing here, and you immediately go up the stairs to my second floor, and you can also see my couch and chair are so close here. So this is all I have that might consist of an entry. Now, what I'm planning to do is removing this large picture of a bald eagle, and I'm going to be installing this shelf that I have leaning up here in the corner and trying to give the illusion of an entryway into my home and make it, I don't know, a little bit more than it is right now. My light switch, I was able to use a nail in that area to hold up my new shelf because there's a 2x4 running right through there. And of course, if you're hammering into wood instead of only through drywall, you get a really good sturdy attachment for your shelf. But on the other side, I tested it and I only found drywall. So I'm going to be using one of these screw-in wall anchors. This one is rated to hold 50 pounds. So I will screw this in with my drill, and then I'm going to be adding this screw, and then I'll be hanging up the new shelf. Now right here is the hole where I tested this area with my nail, and I'm going to go ahead and take my drill and screw in this wall anchor. And you see here it is, and this is going to help to make this shelf be very secure on my wall, no matter what I put on it. So I've got my screw here next. And there we are, ready to hang. So here's my shelf. It's very farmhouse looking. And I have these little hangers right here that I'll be attaching to the wall. And there's my shelf, ready to use. Now this is a little look at my entryway with an after view of my vignette that I put together here. And as you can see, I have a very vintage little reader called Five Little Chickens. And I actually had that framed, and it is in a shadow box. So I've had that for years, and I finally have found a special place for it. I have some greenery, and of course my favorite bird, a cardinal. And here I have a lovely book called The World of Pooh, and it's a collection of all of the Winnie the Pooh stories, the originals. And I have a basket hanging there with a bunny, and I know Easter is over, but for me, bunnies remain in my house all through spring. They are just part of my decor. So there is my final entryway look. I sure do hope that you got some inspiration about how you can work on your home over time, because, you know, these projects happened over the course of really 20 years when I first bought my house, which was built in the early 1990s. So it's getting close to 30 years old now. And also I wanted to mention to you guys my vintage Villeroy and Boch dinnerware here. Here's my coffee pot. It is called amapola, which means poppy in Spanish. And as you can see, my dishes do have purple and sort of peach colored poppies on them. And it's just a delightful old set. And you know, I enjoy using it on special occasions, usually in the springtime. Okay guys, so I will see you in my next video very soon. We'll be out in the garden.